The men's conference is underway in Motswedi village in the northwest, aiming to encourage men to talk about their challenges without the fear of being labelled weak. Discussions include dynamics of raising a boy child, gender-based violence, men's health, and understanding emotional dynamics of anger that has the potential to contribute to incidents of gender-based violence. Our reporter Refiloe Seboko is joining us now. Refiloe, good afternoon. Just bring us up to speed with some of that conversation. And I suppose one of my questions would be, have there been any experts that have been a part of this conference?
Well, part of this conference, Hugo, at this moment presentations and discussions are ongoing, but some of those officials that are part of this discussion and conference, representatives from SAPS and together with the Department of Social Welfare, they have formed part of this conference. But we know that the main guest speaker of today, that is the former Orlando Pirates player, Ronnie Zondi, but also was sharing his experience a little bit earlier on how mental health in some way or another had contributes rather to incidents of gender-based violence, but also advising men to seek help. But I'm joined by one of the organizers of the conference to tell us more. Ntate Sepai, re lebogetse nako ga gore ke goreng le ne le bona go tshwanela go le botlhokwa gore le rulaganye conference ya mofuta ona.
Ke a leboga mme re utlwile re fisega goreng banna ba ipolaya re na le mogopolo wa goreng banna ba ipolayang ba imetswe re be re tla re ba bitse because ga ba imetswe ba siela go bolaeng bana ba siela go bolaeng basadi ga re ka re lwa le gender based violence re lebella re sa lebelle banna gore tota se ba go sa khankeng re bona re a go nna re lwa le gender based violence di jara tsotlhe tse di tlang jaanong re be re tla re kopaneng re le banna re bueng re bone goreng re ka thusana jang ka lesego ra be re krea le di professionals ba ba reng re tla go le thusa rona ka borona fela re ne re etse ya light. We didn't expect gore ya go nna something this big, and re likile ka bojotlhe gore re skera iphitlhela re tsentse any financial constraints tse di ka reng mamang o paletswe ke go tla because o tla ba palelwa ke go tla but a tlhoka thuso eo ra be re reng ra go kgona this gender based violence ha monna a siame
mo kgaolong e re le mo go yone ya Motswedi gongwe dikai tsa diragalo tse le itseng ka tsone lona jaaka ba rulagantse ma conference eno tse di totang banna le ditiragalo tsa gender based violence kgotsa gape le gore bone ba tlhoka go thuswa jang
go gontsi ausi go gontsi le o ka se dumele ke gore a kere this morning ga ke tswa ke go tsaya this guy o ke ne ke tla go thusana le yena go prepare re ne re feta mosimana a betsa mosetsana mo strateng mosetsanyana tota ke re mosetsanyana ka gore o monnye ba balala mo ditaveneng ba abuse wa basadi ba ga ba ga ke re bone ba gola sentle re be re borre tla re tseyeng maikarabelo a goreng re thusa jang seemo se gender based violence e teng and le ga re ka re ba ka mokgwa o ka batlang gore re favor but re sala go sotla basadi because monna o sotlogile ka foteng tla re bua re le banna re lwe le kgang e.
Let's talk as men and fight this gender-based violence, but he was saying that gender-based violence that speaks, or rather that is directed to women and children, is as a result of men having not dealt with some of the issues. But let me also speak to Asaf and try to find out factors that leads to incident of gender-based violence.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fifi. There are quite a number of factors that we would like to discuss. You see, the problem that we have is usually we try to prune the leaves and the branches instead of removing the roots, and that does not help us to solve the problem. We need to get back to where it all starts. What brings gender-based violence? You see, we discussed this issue to say most of the people, when we talk of gender-based violence, they would translate it to abused on women and children. And it's something else different from gender-based violence, because here we're talking of gender, a man and a woman abusing each other. Now, people have got this belief that it is always men who ill-treat women, who abuses women, and it is always men who abuses children. Now, what we are trying to come up with here is factors that would lead men to do that, and we are also going to be looking at the abuse of women on men as well. I can give you just an example. I think there's this thing that is arrived these days, yamavuso, whereby one sleeps with a woman, and in the morning you are told, you either give me a certain amount of money or you go to jail. I'm going to report the rape which was not there. So these are some of the things that make men violent. So what we are trying to say today is we look into these factors and try to advise men on what to do in order to avoid finding themselves in these particular situations. So this is what you need to do in order to reduce cases of abuse by men.
Thank you so much for your time, Asaf Pelwane. He is also one of the organizers of this men's conference that is happening here. It's underway, Hugo. But those type of important discussions that they have highlighted, that men should be helped to deal with challenges that they are faced with. But what is core is the issue of gender-based violence. And why is it that men are being abusive towards women and children? And that's why they need to have these discussions, to talk to men and allow men to speak about their challenges so that they find the root cause of these incidents of gender-based violence.
Now, Sipi, I wonder if you might have had the chance to peek into that conference, and I beg your pardon, Refiloe, I wonder if you might have had the chance to peek into that conference and had a look at the breakdown of maybe age demographic, if you will. Just how young are some of the men in there? Because one would imagine that a good place to start, Refiloe, is with the men becoming adolescents. So, 17, 18, late teenagers into their early 20s.
Well, definitely, Hugo, of course, you know that when an idiom in Setswana says, meaning you need to start a person from a very young age. And that's why some of the discussions will include on how to raising a boy child. But what we are seeing in this conference in particular, we're not seeing teenagers or even young boys that are attending this conference. We're seeing mostly adults, elderly women elderly men that are attending this conference, having these discussions amongst themselves, even though part of the discussions talks about the boy child, it talks about the girl child and how the girl child and the boy child should be able to relate from a very young age, talks about the challenges of handling and dealing with anger, and also trying to deal with some of the childhood traumas, but that will be able to deal or rather assist in refraining from engaging into incidents of gender-based violence. But that, like you're rightfully saying, that this is some of the discussions that needs to happen. But we are seeing that the attendance in particular, most of the people that are here, or men that are here, are elderly men. We're not seeing teenagers, we're not seeing young boys, and I guess we'll just find out from the speakers here today on what is it that they are taking from these discussions. Why was it important for them to form part of these discussions?
Refiloe Seboko, appreciate your time coming to us from the Northwest, where she is monitoring that conversation at a men's conference.